So I am here for part two of our third level of energy. Broke my glasses yesterday. I'm looking through old lenses, and so it's going to be really funny to see if I can make sense of what's going on my computer screen as we go on. This is our part two of the third level of energy, creative energy, and it came to me very intuitively to follow the breaking the third level up into two chunks. And so in the first part, we looked at what we've been looking at previously, our little stick figure and our chart with our creative energy words. These are just skimming the surface. They're just to kind of give you a jump start so that you can be off on your own exploration. As mentioned over and over again, this is sort of the work of my heart, and it all has fed into my life cycle collaborations over the years. And I feel compelled now at this part of my life to share this information because it isn't like it isn't out there. It is. However, the more we speak up and share the beauty and the wonder and the curiosity and the explorations and the experiences of our own life, the better. It's just better that way because we support one another, we sponsor one another, and we encourage one another to be available, not to hide, not to pretend that we don't have experiences that can be helpful, to be mutually beneficial because we grow together. So in part two, I want to share with you a few things. One of the things that I want to really make us aware of, and we'll go to the stick figure to accentuate this in just a little bit, but I really want to put our focus on this part of our body, our experience body, this part of our front and our back, where we give birth to our ideas. We call it the Donchien, the Orenda, the gut, the intuitive body. There's many, many names, the body's brain. There's many, many names for this part of our physicality. And this is where we hold stuff. You know that. I know that. This is where we really try to cling to what we know and control what we fear and just make a muck of things over and over and over again without even realizing it. And no shame, no guilt. Where are we being taught as wee ones, as little ones, to learn to trust our own congruence? We could be learning this in daycare as easily as anything else, just to know how to take a nap, know how to connect with our feelings. I have a list of feelings here. The spectrum of feelings, this is referred to. It comes from a book from the Wayback Machine, Charles Whitfield, in a book that he wrote called Healing the Child Within. I extrapolated a list of his feeling energies, again, many, many years ago when I was in the former high security lockup ward for women. I really began to delve into what happens to us that sort of strangles our energy and pushes it down below the waist so that we're not available to these higher levels of creative energy. And it does happen over and over and over again in patterns that are debilitating or distracting or judgmental toward ourselves, self-critical. There's the dreamer, there's the realist, and there's the critic. And those three parts of us often don't have a balance. And so that inner critic, or else we will magnetically attract others to come into our life to criticize us. And it's like, stop it, stop it. I'll put that Bob Newhart 5-minute Bob Newhart YouTube into our menu for this part two because it's hysterical. It's not funny, but it's so funny that we hurt ourselves so continuously. So I want to share with you from Charles Whitfield's Healing the Child Within, this list of the spectrum of feelings. It's divided into what he refers to as the codependent self, and then the real self that is all of these feelings. So we don't cut ourselves off from our fear, our hurt, our sadness, our shame and guilt, our anger, our confusion, our emptiness, or our numbness. We don't pretend those things away, those feelings away. We turn and we face them. We have Tea with Fear as a wonderful, creative encounter that I've used for many, many years with my life cycle collaborators and in my studios. When we come up against our fear, when we keep saying things to ourselves that cripple us and keep us a sort of catatonic or embryonic, just sort of fetal. When we know that that's happening, we want to have tools. That's what the creative levels really offer us. It's like power tools, and they're feminine power tools to a great degree, because 24 years ago, 23, and now we're into the 24th year of the new millennium, this is the feminine power millennium. This is where the feminine matriarchal energies that got suppressed so deeply for so long are now coming back up. They're spiraling up, they're rising up, they're blossoming, they're flowering. The currents of the feminine rivers are flowing. And obviously, as in any energy that we place our focus on, there are the highs and the lows, the ins and the outs, the ups and the downs. We don't judge. We observe, and we become as conscious as we possibly can on any given day. And we never know when we're going to hit a slippery slope and just everything goes out from underneath us. So experience is such a powerful part of what makes us who we are, wherever we are in our journey. And we want to embrace our experiences, and again, not judge them and not be overly critical when we don't seem to know how to get ourselves traction to transition out of a tight spot and into a more expansive field of exploration. So when we are the real self, as Charles Whitfield is showing us, we have a sense of unconditional love and bliss and joy and compassion and empathy and enthusiasm and contentment, without denying our fear, our hurt, our sadness, our shame and guilt, our anger, our confusion, our emptiness, and or our numbness. Now, again, no judgment, but we're living in a time where, like it or not, we're being repeatedly traumatized by lies and deception. And again, we have to do our own investigation. Nobody else can tell us what brings us home. No one else can point us in the right direction consistently, because we always reach an edge place. That's the 0 point, ground zero. That's the Fool in the tarot. If you look at the card of the Fool in the tarot for 0, little knapsack, little dog, everything's groovy, but you're ready to step off a cliff. And there's a wonderful little phrase from Apollinaire that says, "Come to the edge. No, we will fall. Come to the edge. No, we will fall." They came to the edge. He pushed them and they flew. So there's just so many wonderful, wonderful ways that each and every one of us can be an existential detective, working with these timeless meridians, these rivers flowing through our body, creating electrical force fields and vibrational fields that either align us with our highest best good, our unconditional love, our bliss, our joy, our compassion and empathy, our enthusiasm and our contentment, or pulls us down into fear, hurt, sadness, shame and guilt, anger, confusion, emptiness, and numbness. And it all happens inside of each and every one of our portable units. And we can't know what's going on with anybody else. We can't assume to know what anybody else has gone through, but we have our own story, and our story is our power. So, the short form for my awakening to this exploration, as I've mentioned, it started when I was 20 years old. And when we get to the heart chakra, I'm going to share with you the letter that I received that changed everything in my life and began to ignite in me a desire, because I suddenly at age 19, I had a role model. I had somebody that saw me, that then in turn gave me permission to see them in a way that I had never, ever, ever been permitted to relate with anybody in my life up to that point. And things happen in the proper timing. We can't push our river, our energy river. We can't make something happen, but we can explore. We can be open and curious, and we can be ever so ready, prepared, anxiously ready for the next part of the adventure as it comes to meet us. So I want to share with you something that I wanted to have a way to share the work of Clarissa Pinkola Estes without violating her deep, deep need for privacy. In other words, I didn't want to bring out her book, Women Who Run with the Wolves, and to begin to quote her. But what I found myself feeling would be appropriate for the third level of energy, part 2, was to go into my copy of Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. It's a book of empowering stories, fairy tales that she interprets as a psychoanalyst. And it's been a book in my library, again, since 1992, given to me by a very, very dear one in my life. And as I read Women Who Run with the Wolves, I became more and more aware of just how empowering the stories that have come down through the ages are as teaching tools. But I don't want to share from that book. You can get the book from the library, or you can get it off of your shelf, and you can recognize it as a real power tool for the third level of the creative energy fields. But what I can do is share with you some of the notes that I wrote out when I went to New York City in March of 1993 for an Omega conference that was being offered, that the title was Changing the World from the Inside Out. And there were many fabulous teachers there. Oh my goodness, it was such a rich and extraordinary conference. Clarissa Pinkola Estes was the cantadora, I believe is the name for storyteller. And every morning of the conference, she opened the conference with her extraordinary capacity to be a storyteller. And I took copious notes. I'm just a note taker. When I read something, I take notes. I've got journals, all chronologically organized, that started when I was 18 years old. My mother gave me a folder with 2 pockets in it, and notebook paper and stamps and a pen and some envelopes. And she put me into hiding. I was, what would you call it? I was more than sequestered. I was shunned. I was shunned and hidden away. But my mother gave me, I still have the green folder with the 2 pockets with the notebook paper and the pen. The stamps are gone, the envelopes are gone. She arranged for me to be hidden. And the only assignment that she gave me was to write a letter home every 2 weeks. But I couldn't just send a letter. I had to write the letter and then put the letter into another envelope. And the larger second envelope was the envelope that got mailed. And it got mailed from where I lived in Ohio to somebody I did not know, but I'd been given an address in Chicago. A friend of mine had a friend in Chicago who said they would accept my letter. They would open the envelope addressed to them, and they would put my envelope addressed to my family into the post, so that every 2 weeks at my family home, a letter would arrive that I had written while I was being hidden away. Oh my God. Who cared? Nobody cared. No one ever asked me about any of those letters. But what happened with that little green folder with the notebook papers? I started to write poetry. I started to write poems to my unborn child. That's why I was hidden away. I was an embarrassment. I was very much supposed to be very, very ashamed of myself. However, I wasn't. I was an artist, and I had been exploring and experimenting with my sexuality before I understood the deep connection between sexuality and creativity, which, none of us know that in the early days of our experiences. So anyway, I went to a conference, Changing the World from the Inside Out, and I listened to Clarissa Pinkola Estes every morning, and I took a couple of her workshops, and I wrote copious notes. So I can share with you some of what Clarissa Pinkola Estes tells us about the 3rd level of energy. And why am I assigning her words to that part of this experience that we are mapping out? Because everything comes out of the gut. Everything comes out of the gut. Everything comes out of our emotional body, our body's brain, and how we feel about ourselves and about the life that we're creating. And it behooves us to feel good about our lives and the lives that we're creating, even on the hardest of days, to have a pocket of what I call a grace account, to have made deposits into our grace account when we're feeling good. We could actually have a beautiful bowl in the kitchen. And when we're feeling really good, we might write a note to ourselves and put it in the bowl. That becomes our grace account. We might have a beautiful box that comes, some kind of a candle or anything comes in a beautiful box. And we might save the box and put a slit in the top of it, and then deposit our feeling ideas when we feel good, when something good happens, when someone gives us a good gift, a smile, an exchange out in the world. We write it down and we make a deposit into our grace account. And then when we hit the slippery slope, when days are not so good, we can open that box and we can read those slips, and it can change everything for us. But we have to have something in place. The 3rd level of energy, we have to have something in place, because this is where everything that we express comes from, how we're feeling on any given day. If I'm feeling grumpy, I'm going to project that out into the day, and others around me are going to pick up on that, and everybody's going to be grumpy pretty quickly because I have a lot of power. So I have a responsibility. I take it very, very to heart. I take my responsibility to heart. I do my level best not to project my negativity onto others, but I write about it in my journal, or I express it in my studio through my paintings and my drawings and such like, or even in my garden. Go out and I'll weed. I'll pull a bucket of weeds. I'll go to my compost pile. I've kept a compost pile consistently since 1975. I compost all of my kitchen waste. And when I go out and chop up my kitchen waste in my compost pile, I know that I'm helping to make soil. So there's lots of different ways in which we can have in place the tools that the third level of energy, part 2, gives us an opportunity to ferret out and have in place so that we don't miss a beat for too long. Yesterday I was watching a movie in the evening, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I was watching the movie. It was really good, and the sidebar on my glasses fell off, and it was like, what just happened? And my glasses they fell apart. So now I've got to go and take care of that, and there's all these things that we have to take care of, and they come out of nowhere, and we don't want to have that knock us off base. All right. Clarissa Pinkola Estes, she says, breathe what you have inside of you into all the open mouths and open ears of the sleepers all over the world. So the sleepers receive your beauty in their dreams. Acts of beauty, acts of moderation, acts of aggression into the sleeping ears and open mouths of the dreamers. Be conscious, see the bigger picture, the huge light in all places, an immense light that stays on and shines in all direction. Now, this part of the body is referred to as the solar plexus. It's like a sun inside of us, the light inside of us. It's really kind of amazing how, the names of things really can be resonant. Another part of Clarissa Pinkola is, each morning I connect with the Tibetan monks in the temples on the high points of the earth. I stand in the rain of the prayers of the monks. She talks about the dakinis, the dancing force, which has clear seeing within women. It goes on, she goes on. A knowing of the soul, a practice, ears to hear her soul talk, chiming of her own inner rhythms, sureness of soul footing. Remember why they're here. Wild woman, regulator, heart. She is what she is, and she is whole. Lush, wild, natural. More interested in thoughts, feelings, and endeavors which strengthen women. She of the woods, she of the woods, the wolverine, the spider woman who weaves the fates of human and animals and plants and rocks. The mist beings, the woman who has lived forever. The Numina who brings all light, all consciousness. She says, a healthy woman is much like a wolf, robust, chuck full, strong, life force, life-giving, territorially aware, inventive, loyal, roving, the creating function of the psyche to flood the delta. We see not through the two eyes, but through the eyes of intuition, which is many-eyed. When we assert intuition, we are therefore like the starry night. We gaze at the world through 1,000 eyes. The wild woman carries the bundles for healing. She carries everything a woman needs to be and know. She carries the medicine for all things. She carries stories and dreams and words and songs and signs and symbols. She is both vehicle and destination. The wild nature has a vast integrity to it. She goes on and on. I've got pages of these notes, but I of course want to keep this in a manageable size. So what I wanted to share with you before we go into level 4 is going to take us over to our workspace. Okay, so real short, really, really short. I want to really impress upon us the waistband before we move up into the higher levels. That waistband represents endurance. Before we can break through and open the heart, reach the heart, connect with the heart, there is something we must endure. Now, you and I know that we have endured. We have endured life experiences. And somewhere along the line, there was a boot on our neck, something that wanted to break our spirit, something that made us feel like it wasn't necessarily possible to move forward. And sometimes, many times, oftentimes, we tend to get stuck so that we box ourselves in and live. We don't even have roots. We don't even know about the roots. We box ourselves in and we stay right here our entire life, afraid, wondering where we belong, and not knowing who we are. Enough said, right? So this is the point of endurance. I have dyslexia like crazy. I shift things around all the time, which is why I make great discoveries with language. And one of the things that endurance says to me is dance, just dance, be the dance. And if we can find our own, each of us in our own way, if we can find a way to dance life, that can be literal, that can be metaphoric, but just like even just put some music on and move the body. Go out and walk and feel the rhythm of the movement of the body and get yourself in tune, because when we move into level 4, well, I can only say ooh la la. So let me turn this over to our closing, and here we go. Thank you so, so much for being here. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for going to the YouTube channel where this is coming to you from. Give it a thumbs up, make a comment, let people know how you experience each of these levels of energy. Share this information if you have a buddy, a colleague, a cohort that might in some way benefit. Don't sell it. Don't evangelize about it. Keep it all to yourself if need be. But if there's any way in which you know that getting congruent and finding our home could be supportive of someone that you care about, ask them if they'd be interested in learning about how to work with the creative energy levels. They can do no harm, and they open up a world of bringing us back into our true nature, loving kindness, open heart, awakening to who we came here to be, being healed on whatever level we need to a healing. We all know that as we climb up from the base of the spine, there's healing to be done in each and every one of us. Nobody is exempt. So thank you for being here. This is Iona. This is Wren House Studio. And this is the exploration of the creative energy fields. And I'm so glad that you are here. Take good care, and I'll see you with the level 4 coming up